But the first piece of Gemara that we're going to start with tonight on Vav Days, on this Mishnah on the bottom of the page, talks about catching different kinds of pests. And the pests could, of course, destroy the trees, and eventually they could destroy other things as well. And so the Mishnah says, Tzadim eser ishos v'eser achbarim mistei ilan mistei alavan kedarko. So that when you now the question, achbarim are obviously mice, and Ishot, the Gemara is going to tell us, is some kind of creature that has no eyes or is blind.
A weasel.
A weasel?
According to this,
weasel color of India.
Mole.
Yes, it has.
Actually, probably the mole.
Alex Scherenberg.
Well,
What's it called?
He gave it a scientific name. Lafia Theorim, Bagmara, Hayishut Shell, when he said, Shemizahimoto, they identified him. A choled, which I think is a mole.
A choled,
a choled
yes.
is a mole.
Right.
Aniskar b'mikra echad miminei, and he talks about a spalax, Scherenberg b'aretz, mitzui b'ikar, amin. So that's a certain kind of.
So the problem with these creatures that go underground is, of course, a mole digs. And as it digs, it destroys the root structure. Right. I mean, you sometimes see where the raccoons or the other animals come and dig up pieces of they dig up the ground. They're looking for grubs underneath the soil, and they pull out chunks of your grass. The same thing. These creatures could do actually tremendous damage as they began burrowing underneath.
I had since I raised flowers and I had some of these. They could just take the whole roots out.
Right, that's
they
right.
Could put special candles in there with chemicals and whatever.
Right. So at any rate,
today there's a solution.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the concern was apparently that Elon would be more at risk. Actually, we'll see it for the next line of the Mishnah, than a stay Lavan. Stay Lavan is a grain field.
Grain, so not vegetables. Grain.
Grain. Stay Lavan is a white field. Looks like white because of the white grain on the top of the grasses. So that's a problem to have these moles and rodents running around, but that would be individual stalks. The problem is when you get to trees and they begin ruining the root structure of the tree, right? That's big time. So the first line of the Mishnah says you can do this on a kedarka b'moed u'b'shvius. You can catch them normally on chalamoid and on shmita. That's the first opinion. We don't have a name here associated with them. We'll see a name in the Gemara. The Chachamim omrim, the second opinion, which is the Chachamim, or maybe the first is Misteho Ilan Kedarko, Misteho Lovan Shlo Kedarko. That from an orchard you can actually catch them properly, correctly. Basically, you make a hole and you catch them. You dig into the burrow and then you kind of put some trap and catch them. And on the Stay Lovan, which is less of a problem. Right. The problem with the Stay Lavan, I think, was that they would move from the Stay Lavan to the Stay Elon. So it's an extension. It's really extended. It's not happening immediately. It's Shalo Kedarko. You would do it with a Shinoi. Okay. When on, and this looks to be
the same
more
time, presumably, except
right. But Moed.
One, yeah.
When Stay Lavan Shalo Kedarko, and it's referring to. It's referring to Chalamoid specifically, I think. Umakvinis apirtza, we'll see in the Gemara. Umakvinis apirtza b'moed, and you can close up. There was a break in the wall, or the wall fell down. You can close up the break on Chalamoid. B'shviz bona kedarko, and on Shemitah you can actually build a wall. Okay, the prohibitions of Shemitah have to do with working the ground. Building a wall that fell down has no connection. Chalamoid has to do with tircha and extra work. Okay, so this is you have two opinions here in the Mishnah about catching these animals. Either you can do it kedarko on Chalamoid and Shemitah, and the Chachamim say there's a difference between Stay Elon and Stay Lavan. Okay. By the way, what would be the problem on Chalamoid with catching these animals? Tremendous tircha. Says. On the other hand, you got to balance that with the hefsek. What should be the problem with Shemitah doing this?
None. You're allowed to do stuff like that on Shemitah.
Right. So why is there according to Chachamim? Right. It may also appear to Shvius as well that it has to be Shlo Kedarko for stay lava.
Right.
So some of the Rishonim suggest that in order to catch them, you have to dig. So digging, therefore, is really
like plowing or whatever.
Right. So first of all, it may look like you're working the land, and second of all, you actually are working the land.
Mm-hmm.
You got to find where the furrow is, where their burrow is, in order to be able to catch them. So there actually is. So that's what Tosa says. It's Tosa that you have to do the work on the land, and Tosa actually suggests that there's another thing you have to do. It's not just working the land. In order to get to the burrow, you have to remove stones. You have to fix the land up. Whatever boulders or stones may be in the way, you have to remove them in order to be able to set up a trap to catch them. So you are doing some improvement of the land itself.
And that you're not allowed to do on Shemitah.
Right.
And that would be, you cannot do on Shemitah. In this case, it's indirect. Or in this case, according to Chachamim, with Stay Elon, it's a serious hefset to the tree, you can. Because once again, this is not about improving a tree, it's about saving the tree. With the Stay Lavan, which is a little less direct or less required, so you have to Shlo Kedarko indirectly with some kind of shinoi. Okay.
Well, if it was shinoi, it doesn't really stop the idea of people not seeing you do something wrong. They might still suspect it, right? So
They see you doing a shinoi, they realize you're doing something out of the ordinary to solve a problem, not to work the land.
Well, what kind of shinoi are you going to do that makes it appear that...
I don't know, pick it up with your left hand.
Left hand.
Kick the stones with your feet, don't pick them up.
No, but the issue is they're seeing land being...
No, because you're a farmer. Farmers have certain ways of doing things. When they're cleaning the land from stones, they pick up the boulders and throw them away. They're going to kick it with their foot or pick up with the left hand or do it in a funny kind of way. It clearly shows that you're doing it for a different kind of purpose, not for farming. It's pretty clear. So now the Gemara wants to know, what is this kind of animal? My ishus. What is this animal itself we're talking about? I'm Rabbi Yehuda I'm Rabbi Yehuda. Ber yosh ein lo einayim. It's an animal that has no eyes. It says, we saw the mole falls into that, seems to be that definition. I'm Rabbi Shmuel Vitem Rabbi Yem Bar Shamaya. Mikra. What pasuk do we have that makes reference to this kind of word, the ishus? So the word that comes up in Tehillim is actually eshet, not wife, or ishet or something. So the pasuk says Kamoshaba, and it's talking about how the Rishayim should become like evaporate, leave nothing behind. So David HaMelech in Tehillim gives the analogy about certain things that simply just fade into nothing. He's talking about if a snail comes out of its shell. The snail comes out of its shell, it fades away. Now, we don't know what that means exactly. Probably the snail will dry out. So the animal goes into the shell for protection or to maintain itself. So this snail, which is so tenuous, and of course you have to remember snails are like slugs, and they have no skeleton. So they just like seem to ooze out all over the place. They don't even have a body structure. You ever see a slug on the ground without a shell? So therefore, in the eyes of Chazal, these were animals that whose existence was very tenuous. So that's what David HaMelech is talking about this, and the same way that the mole, which never sees the light. This is what the Rishayim should be like the snail that comes out of its shell and goes away, and the mole that never sees the light. So the Rishayim should kind of go away, and we shouldn't have to worry about them. So that's the analogy of the Tilm. Kamosha balul tamas yaloch. The same way that the tamas is the snail, and balul I think is what kind of like oozes out from it, like the slime of the snail. Yalo goes. Nefel eshet bal chazu shemesh. The nefel, this I think means like the offspring of the eshet of the mole will never see the sun. And the analogy is of course really about the Rishayim themselves. So the same way these animals never do anything and they're gone, so the same thing should be with the Rishayim. But the term in the pasuk is eshet, which is the same root as ishut. Only obviously one's got a yud, one's got a vav. This is where we have the example in the Tanakh of this animal itself.
Bal chazu shomesh, that's the idea. That sounds like they shouldn't see the sun.
Right. They shouldn't see the sun. In fact, they don't see the sun because these are they have no eyes.
Right.
So in other words, they make no impression. They have nothing to do. They wander around in darkness. So the Rishayim as well should wander around darkness and go away. They're never going to have an impact. Tan Rabbanan. So now we have a brayso that gives a little more details. Sadim esel ishos v'sachbarim misteha lavan and misteha ilan kedarko. So this talks about a number of other kinds of pests that you can catch, the ishot and the achbarim and the mice, thank you. Mistei Lavan and Mistei Ilan, Kedarko. This is the first opinion of our Mishnah. Umachriven Chorei Nemalim. And you can also destroy anthills. And once again, anthills were also considered destructive. They burrow in, and eventually they will, I guess, weaken the root structure. I don't know. You know, in my yard I have an anthill, and when the anthill came to the surface, I can't get grass to grow. Because they've brought up all the sand to the surface from their anthill. I suppose I worked hard, but I'm saying, but they do, so it's grass. Okay, there's 2 minute vey. I'm saying, but you can imagine if you have suddenly many ants, and they're aggressive ants, and they're large ants, and there are many anthills, it could be a problem for a farmer. So it's it falls in the same category about the achbarim and the ishod who are ripping up the ground. These were serious problems for farmers. So as well, you can destroy the anthills. How do you do so? Okay, so how do you destroy the anthills? Rav Shimon Gamliel Omer.
I'm waiting to hear the answer. I think all of us are waiting because everybody's trying to destroy an anthill.
So look what it says. Look what it says. Maybe afar mechorzeh v'noten lechorzeh. You take the dirt from one anthill, and obviously these are probably the dirt that has the nest with the eggs or the cocoons of the baby ants, and then you throw it, or the scent, you throw it into another anthill, and they feel they're under attack. And so they begin killing each other, right? You create World War III for the ants. And they strangle each other. Obviously, they actually probably bite each other with their little foreskins. And that's how you do it. So now, it only works in a certain case, says the Gemara. Amrav Yemer Bar Shammai Mishmei Abaye. Here's the caveat. Here's the codic. V'hu dekoi betray Avri Nahara. That's only if the ants are living, the 2 anthills, on 2 sides of the river. So this is a territorial kind of thing for ants, and every ant group had their own area, and therefore if they felt that they were being encroached on, that was a battle cry. And it is such a separation of the river, there's no way to get across. V'hudaleka gashwa, there's no gesha, there's no bridge. V'hudaleka gamla, there's no board. Sometimes it was a primitive kind of bridge. You put a board across the river, right? You don't need, by the way, you talk about a river. Don't think of the river like I don't know,
like the Thames.
Like the Thames River. Think of the river like the babbling brook. Right? The ants can't get across any kind of river.
Why would this be important?
Because if you kind of mix the anthills together, they feel that they're being encroached upon by an antagonistic group, and they kind of attack each other and attack themselves. It destroys the anthills.
He's letting you know that it won't work if you don't.
But why does it not work otherwise? I don't understand.
Apparently they felt they're mishpacha, right? They're supportive. They're doing the same thing. I don't know. You know, the only way that I know that you destroy an anthill is you kind of get rid of the queen.
Yeah, you go find the queen.
Okay, but I'm saying, but that's the right. Well, and if you see how antagonistic ants can become, and the ants that live with us are very, very, very simple, very, very passive ants. But try ripping into their anthill, and they all come out at you.
Sure. Especially the red ones.
Okay. So one is there's no bridge. Hudaleka gamla, there's no board. Hudaleka mitzvah. A mitzvah is a rope.
A rope.
It's like a rope bridge. Or sometimes this was they didn't really have a bridge. They had you've probably seen this kind of, it's like you have an upper rope and a lower rope. Right? And you kind of go across the bridge with rope on top of hand. Sounds very primitive, but that's how the bridges work. Depends on the size of the brook. Okay, so this is the caveat. Don't think this works for all ants, only if the ants are separated by this river. And then the Gemara says, Ad kama, how far do the 2 anthills have to be between themselves? So the Gemara says ad parsa. It has to be a parsa between them. Now Rashi says this is a separate clause. In other words, if you have a river between them,
you don't have a problem.
You don't have a problem as long as the river you can't get across.
Right.
But if there is no river, if they're separated by a parsa, by a parthang, which is probably like a, I don't remember. Parthang is So,
for a mil, which is the same as 8,000 amos, was between 2.3 and 3 miles.
How much?
okay, there you go.
2
3 miles.
2.3 miles.
I was going to say 4 miles. Good. So let's say 3 miles. Okay. So
That's very far apart.
that's very far. That's far apart. That's 45-minute walk. Okay.
You're going to go 3 miles away to look for another anthill?
If you want to get rid of the ants, yes. It's actually this is an environmentally sound method. It's better than fulfilling it with pesticides. But the issue really is, I don't know this. Don't try this at home.
I'm going to try. No, what do you
Okay.
mean? Yeah, absolutely.
But more importantly, apparently this worked. This is what worked with the ants of the days of the Gemara. All it's simply telling you that you in Chol Moed you can schlep sich for 3 miles to go find the other anthill and schlep some of the dirt there, and the scent is going to make the ants go crazy, and they will self-destruct, probably abandon the anthill, and your crops will be saved. It's giving you. This is not like do you say Ashrei? Don't you say Ashrei? Do you say Tach? No, you say. This is telling you what worked. Okay. This, by the way, was the Kedarko, the usual way that they destroyed anthills. Well, at least when they found out when they read the Gemara. So this is just telling you this can be done, of course, on Chol Moed, and it appears to be done even Kedarko. And now the Gemara goes back to trying to go back to going after the mole and the mice. Thank you. Rabbi Yehuda Meir, Misteo Ilan Kedarko, Misteo Lavan Shlo Kedarko. So Rabbi Yehuda came along, and actually our Mishnah said Chachamim Omrim. Right. And there was a little thing on the side that said the Gersa of Rabbi Yehuda, and our Nusach in the Gemara is Rabbi Yehuda. It doesn't make a difference who says it, but this is the second opinion, which says there's a difference between Stei Ilan and Stei Lavan. Stei Ilan is Kedarko. Stei Lavan Shlo Kedarko. So now you have to know what is Kedarko, what Shlo Kedarko mean. Right? We're talking about people in Chol Moed, when they write with a shinoi, or they write the first line with a shina. Right?
So Rabbi Yehuda is saying
so when they, for example, writing considered malachas uman? If you believe it's skilled labor, right? Then you would want to show that if you have to write, you'd write in a way that showed it was unusual. You write with your left hand; it's very difficult. But the way they do it is they write the first line at a slant. So you're writing the first line, at least beginning slanted.
But it isn't malachas.
So the question is, will malachas? Today everybody writes. Today everybody writes.
Yeah, that's what had you.
Not in the old days.
Correct. But the leftovers were that there are people today who still think it's malachas uman. I recall back in grade school we pulled this on our general studies teachers, and because we had chostul chalmud, we said we can't write. And the general studies teachers didn't know the difference. We said it to the Rabbi, they. Okay.
and Rabbi told you it's not malachas.
The Rabbi said you better write or you'll get frask and punim.
Sorry, but I got to come back to the Mishnah again to make sure I understand, Rabbi. Isn't the Mishnah, when it says Chachamim, like who's the Mishnah? Usually it's a basic Mishnah,
Correct.
Somebody, Rabbi Yehuda and us must have thought that this is accepted not just by one person and every other Chacham is against him.
Correct. So there obviously were different nuschos. So this our version has Chachamim. I mean, the first verse, who's the first version? First version has no name. It's also Chachamim. So
yeah. Okay. All right.
Isn't some Mishnah Rabbi Meir?
Yep. Some Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. Usually. So it's Rabbi Meir versus the Chachamim, or Rabbi Meir versus Rabbi Yehuda. Right. As we know, most of the Mishnayos are from the Talmud and Rabbi Akiva.
Right.
Where we have to. So Rabbi Yehuda Mistei L'Ilan Kedarko Mistei L'Lam Shlo Kedarko Tan Rabbanan Keitza Kedarko. Okay, so what is actually Kedarko? So Chofer Guma. Once again, this is telling you practical. This is not. Do you say Tachna? Don't you say Tachna? So this is what works. This is the usual way they would do it. Chofer Guma. They would make a hole or a ditch or a break, a trench. V'tole ba mitzuda, and they put a trap inside. So you break the furrow. You break the tunnel, and you put a trap in the tunnel, and they get caught. That's simple. Keita shelo kedarko. So what's shelo kedarko? So noed shipud, you kind of take like a hammer or a pole.
Yeah. What do you call
a long pole? A pole.
Yeah.
A long stick.
What used for a barbecue, right?
Correct.
That's it. That's what
right.
They use.
Skewer.
Skewer.
You took a long skewer. In this case, it means any long thing,
skewer.
Right? It could be actually wood. It probably was wood. Umaka bakardom, and that you take the hammer and knock it in. So you're not digging out a full hole into the tunnel. You're simply putting this little piece of wood in and knocking it through. When you bang on it, the earth caves in on the animals and the animals die. Okay? You say, well, it doesn't work that way.
No, with moles, for sure.
Well, I don't know, but apparently they felt it did work. Or if it didn't kill them, it probably removed them from the area. Okay, the animals don't like to be where they feel that they're in danger. So if they felt that their area of their home is not stable, right? They will
might have moved somewhere.
They'll move somewhere else. Correct. You know what? This is they want to stay dry. They want to stay safe. So it doesn't. You don't have to kill them, but you have to remove them. Okay. So anyway, this tells you the Kedarko Shlo Kedarko according to the second opinion of the Mishnah. Tanya. Now we have a brisa. Rav Shem ben Elazar Omer, Kisha Mistei Lavan Shlo Kedarko. When they said in Mistei Lavan you can't do Shlo Kedarko, it's not that much of a problem in a grain field. Lo Amru Ela Mistei Lavan Asmucha Le'ir. It's only about a grain field that's near the city. Okay, means the only damage would be if they leave the grain, they're going to either damage that grain field, or no other thing is happening. This was an empty piece of land near the field, right outside the field, where there was right outside the city, where there was a clearing, and they planted grain there. Right? Sometimes you see, like in a mixed area, in some of the new developments, there are still fields that haven't been turned into rezoned into developing. But if you have a grain field that's near an orchard, right? So there's a problem because the moles are going to leave the grain field and move into the orchard. Afila Kedarko. Then you can even do Kedarko, even according to the second opinion, Machmir, Shema Yetza Mistei Lavan V'Yachribas Ilanos, because maybe they'll leave the grain field and go and destroy the trees. Apparently the trees are very susceptible to damage to the roots and damage the roots of the tree, and it's an extremely big time problem. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So at any rate, this is all really about the Ishos and about the Achbarim. Very, very black and white. Okay? Now we come to the second half of the Mishnah. The second half of the Mishnah talks about fixing the fence. If you have a break in the fence, you can fix it. And it uses unusual terms as makrin. Makrin, it means you're doing something to it. It's not clear what you're doing. You're not rebuilding the fence. Not rebuilding the wall, because that's what the Mishnah says following that you can do that for Shemitah, which means on Chol Hamoed you can fix it but you can't rebuild it. So Ketzad Makrin, how do you fix it, or how can you repair it? Rav Yosef Amar, B'chutza v'dafno. Chutza v'dafno is parts of the palm tree. These were the leaves, the big fronds of the palm tree, and Daphne was another kind of plant, and they would tie them together, and they would kind of use that to stuff up the hole that was there. Okay, I think this comes up. I think the term Chutza v'Daphne also comes up in Masechet Sukkah, where we talked about an elephant, and you can use a Baal Chai for a side of a sukkah. Right. And when they talked about using an elephant because it was big enough, so they said, what about underneath it? They talked about you put Chutza v'Daphne underneath it to make sure it was filled up. So anyway, it's some kind of ad hoc kind of fixing of the wall that will stay there. This Chutza v'Daphne. And you're building the wall from this. But Masnisa Tana, we have a brisa that says there's a different variation. What were you fixing? Tsar b'tzrar, you actually use stones. Tzorim are pebbles or stones. So you actually stone the stones. Means you set up the stones. The eino tach b'tit, but you didn't put mortar into to keep them together. So you can actually rebuild the wall, but you couldn't make it solidified to keep it there. So it was still an ad hoc kind of thing. Okay. So once again, all of this is telling you that you're building it or rebuilding it, but it's not completely built. So on Chol Moed, on Shemitah, you can actually do a complete build. Amrav Chisda, Lo Shano Kotel Agina. Okay, this is only about where the wall itself is next to a garden. Gina is a garden or some kind of place where things are growing. Ava Kotel Chotzer Bona Kedarko. But if it's a wall outside your Chotzer, your yard, Don't think of your yard as your backyard. Think of your yard as the yard that was where people came through to get to the house. Think of it as a front yard.
Okay.
Or think of it as part of your property. A property wall.
Okay.
So if that came down, so what could happen? Your security of your house could be compromised. Think of it as probably they didn't have the security systems we have today, right, with locks and so forth. So as a result, the best way to secure your property, not just from human ganovim, but from critters and other kinds of damages, would be to make sure that you had a wall around your house and the wall was secured.
So again, we're talking about the one between the garden you could fix, but only temporarily.
Correct.
That's the point?
The one around your house,
right,
you can fix completely. You can rebuild it, because that was considered hefsed meruba. So and that's so. They, once again, the caveat is how much you can fix, or the clause that limits your fixing it is really only about where the wall is abutting against some kind of garden. Now, remember, it's got to be a garden because it can't be a field, because fields did not have walls; they were too large.
Right.
But you would have, in the same way that you can think of a vegetable patch or a garden of some sort. If you lose the garden, you lose the garden. Right? The garden was outside the walls of your house, or outside the walls of your courtyard.
You still wanted to be able to do something, because you might be eating from all this garden.
Correct.
So that's why they give
right. Or more importantly, if you didn't keep the fence up there, you probably would lose the garden as well. Other animals would come in. But it's not that drastic a loss. So therefore, you can only fix it ad hocly until after Chol Moed, until after Yontif. So, and the Gemara says, Lema Masayile. Let's see if we can bring a proof from this brisa. Kotel hagochel l'reshut harabim. Okay, a wall that is leaning over to Reshut Harabim, Soter Ubone Kedarko Mibnei Sakana. So if the wall is leaning over to the Reshut Harabim, and this is talking about Chol Moed, you can actually knock it down and build the Kedarko Mibnei Sakana. So you see, and it shouldn't fall down on
people. No.
On people, correct?
Does this Mibnei Sakana also apply to other situations as well?
Yeah, the Sakana should.
Well, like the electrical contractor didn't put in the switches in the right way, so it's a fire hazard unless they're replaced.
I don't know the right way means they're not grounded. Yeah,
not grounded or whatever.
Okay.
So
they're upside down. They're upside down. It's not a problem. It's upside down. You learn how to put up is on and down is off, whatever it is. But if there's a sakana, it's a sakana. Sure, of course. So in this case, it's even worse because it's a reshus harabim.
Right.
So it's a tzorchei rabim plus a sakana. So the Gemara at least shows from here.
This is your own kotel we're talking about, but it's on right beside the reshus harabim, I assume, or we're talking about just altogether the city, or who knows?
Well, but here's the key. But here's the proof, and then you'll see in a moment what the proof, the knockoff on the proof is. What does the brisa say? Kotel hagochel reshut harabim. So what kind of wall is this? What kind of wall are we talking about? Where it's not just it's not. It's in other words, you see that there are types of walls that you can actually rebuild completely.
Yes.
So which means to say, if you were to draw the analogy, therefore around the Gina you can't rebuild, but around something more significant you could rebuild.
Okay.
So that proves that you see there are different gradations of walls, different halachot about rebuilding walls.
Right.
So the Gemara says that's not really such a proof, right? Why? Because the Gemara says, wait, hasam kidakatani taima. The Gemara says, but that tells you why it is mipnei sakana. So everybody would understand sakana. You got to rebuild a wall.
Right.
That doesn't prove to you that if the wall around your chutzner comes down,
and there's no sakana,
there's no immediate sakana. No, that the concern that you may have that someone may break into your house or animals may come in and damage your property is not a subpersonal sakana. The concern about the wall facing the public property is it may collapse on someone may get hurt. So Gemara says that's really no proof. So that the proof itself is not there. Hasam k'dei time of sakana. V'ika di'amrei. And some that have a different version that kind of just turns around the question and answer. Toshma, kotel agochel reshut harabim soter bona kedarkom mimnei sakana. We bring it as a question, not as a no. This looks like it's on the mimnei sakana. The mimnei sakana in shlom mimnei sakana lo. Okay, so this looks like only with sakana can you actually knock it down and rebuild it. Anything less than sakana, you can't.
Right.
So therefore, you, Rav Chisda, who suggested that a wall that's up against your house, against your chutzner, that comes down, that you can actually fix it permanently, you see this brisa goes against it.
Right.
So the Ikan throws it as a question, Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda, you would tell me that when you can only put this ad hoc with the Hutzah and Dafna. When it comes to a Chatzer, you can fix it completely. But you see here the case of the wall falling in Rishut Rabbi, you can fix it completely because sakana, only sakana. Anything less than sakana, you can't. And in case of chatzir, it's not sakana. Slam it to have it yufted Rav Chisda. Some Rav Chisda will answer, no. There are three different kinds of ways to fix things. One is the ad hoc hutzah v'dafna. One is to repair what you have in place, in situ, but repair it completely. Build a permanent patch. And the third is knock it down and rebuild it from scratch. So the answer is, when it comes to sakana and Rosh Hashanah, you knock it down and you rebuild from the beginning. When it comes to chatzir, you fix it completely and totally in place. When it comes to anything less, you can only do hutzah v'dafna. Okay. So Rav Chisda, hasam soter boner, hasam soter boner, hacha boner v'lo soter. Okay, our case is talking about building and not knocking it down. Hasam nami, hasam soter boner, hacha boner v'lo soter. So the Gemara says, hasam nami lista v'lo livnei. So if you tell me that normally you can't knock down and rebuild.
Right.
So when the case of the wall that's falling down the Rishut Rabbim,
why don't you just leave it down?
Why just knock it down and not rebuild it? Right. Why do you have to rebuild it?
Exactly.
You tell me rebuilding from scratch is such an exception. Why rebuild it? So the Gemara says Hasam. So there as well, Hasam nami list of lo livne. Some Cain mimne. So the Gemara says we're afraid mimne v'lo soter. We're afraid that you won't knock it down either. It'll remain a public hazard. This is your wall. And it's protecting your property,
right?
Or something that you want it there for. What's the concern? Not about your wall. The concern is about people outside.
Right.
If we tell you you gotta knock it down, you can't rebuild it, you won't knock it down. The sakana will remain. Right. If we say we want to remove the sakana, therefore we give you the head to knock it down and rebuild it because it's for the
welfare,
the Rishut Rabbim. It's for Tzorach Rabbim.
Right. Sorry.
Okay. So
very nice.
So therefore, that's the answer to the question. So Rav Ashi says, Matnita Nami Deka. Our Mishnah is a proof, by the way, to this. The Katani, it says in the end of our Mishnah, Ubashviz Bone Kedarko. On Shemitah, you can actually build normally. Now, what are we talking about? What type of wall are we talking about? Dehecha. What are we building normally on Shemitah? Ilaim and the Chatzar. You mean to say that you can build normally a wall against a Chatzar? Do we need to say that? We said the case about Shemitah, about Moed, is about. We just said Rav Chisda told us that you can build it normally on Chol Moed. So Elalav Ilaim and the Chatzar Tzricha L'Meimar. We learned that from Rav Chisda's explanation of the Brisa. Elav the Gina. So it tells me it must be that only that can do it as well for the Gina. And Mishvis, I can be Bonek Kedarko. The Afagav, the Michse commander of Nitzirusa Lepera, even though it looks like I'm building a protection about my fruit around the Gina, but I can still do it Shmamina. So you see from this that Shemitah you can build Kedarko. On Moed, Chalamod, you can't build Kedarko. The only time you can build Kedarko, when can I build Kedarko?
If it's a school.
Only if it's Sakana can I knock it down and rebuild it. Or and the other case, if it's al chatzir, I can only fix it up in its place. So from the end of the Mishnah, when it says bona kedarko, it means I can build normally, not just about a defective wall. I can start from scratch. The only time I can build normally is on Shemitah.
Right.
Right. The other cases we had about Chalamoe, which are against the Chatzir or against the Gina, neither of them can I build normally. Against the Chatzir, I can fix in its place. Against the Gina, I can temporarily do it with the Chutza and Dafna. Okay, so this is the Mishnah. The Mishnah told us here. Okay. Now we come to a more complicated scenario in the next Mishnah in Gemara. This is about Nagayim.
Here they're giving Rabbi Meir the actual pen.
Right. Okay, so there are two types of Mitzorah.
Mitzorah's coming in?
Yeah, so this it becomes Mitzorah. I told you it's going to get complicated. So the pasuk says for mitzvah adam kia b'yover saros yesus sapachas lo beheres. A person has some kind of lesion, right? And what happens? So you have to and it's baheres or whatever is bar b'saro. So you have to show it raw kohen v'timeo so.
Right.
So the kohen has to see it. Now what makes this baheres? The baheres has in it it's white, and inside there are either two white hairs, or there is actually live flesh inside the baheres. Now sometimes it was not clear when the kohen saw it whether this was or not. Sure. So the pasuk says in baheres levarnahi bar b'saro. So v'skira kohenes anega shivas yomim. So the kohen would say you're locked up for 7 days, right? And on the 7th day, raw kohen b'yom shvi b'nei amad beinav. The kohen would come back after 7 days and look at it again. If it had spread, if it had spread, he would make him a mitzorah. Right. If not, it says v'hinei hanega amad beinav. It stayed where it was, nothing happened. Right. So v'skiva kohen shivat yom sheni. So the kohen would say you have another 7 days, and I'll come back after the second 7 days again.
Right.
And then, if the next 7 days the kohen comes back and nothing has happened more, then v'tia roha kohen, the kohen makes him tahar. Right. However, in pasot if says mispachas ba'ar, then the v'timei kohen tzorasi, the kohen comes and says it's tzoras.
Right.
So there are two things here. First of all, it all depends upon the word of the kohen.
Absolutely.
As long as the kohen
right,
as long as the kohen didn't declare it,
absolutely,
it's not tzoras.
Absolutely.
So, if the kohen is out of town, or if we don't let the kohen go, so then you don't declare it.
Right.
So there, for example, I think with a chassan, you wait till after the Shivas Yimei Mishnah before the kohen's called in. Right. So there are times that these things actually have a little bit of leeway because it's based upon what the kohen declares and how he declares it.
How much time do you have to call the kohen?
If the kohen, there's no kohen in the house, then you haven't called the kohen.
Don't call him. Wait 6 months.
So
the answer is that you're obligated to call the kohen as reasonably possible, with some exceptions. One I told you, I believe the chassan. Another example that we're going to talk about here is about Chol Moed. So is the kohen called on Chol Moed to declare it or not? Now, there are two types of mitzorah. So there's what's called mitzorah muskar and mitzorah muchlat. Mitzorah muskar is the mitzorah who's seen the first time, and the kohen says, I don't know. Really so you go 7 days, and then there's a muchlat the second time around. It comes back for another 7 days. So that's a type of mitzorah. And then mitzorah muchlat is when the kohen declares him to be a mitzorah right away. After the first 7 days or the second 7 days, the kohen comes and says you're definitely a mitzorah.
What if he declares him right away? It's also muchlat.
Would be also muchlat, yeah, right. So, but the baheres was the one that wasn't clear. You had to see how it would spread. Now, if it had the two hairs or it had the flesh inside that was still alive, it's fine. It's tzoras. But if it didn't, then it was not clear how to define what it was. So the question is, what happens here on Chol Moed? Obviously, Chol Moed is a time when you are supposed to celebrate.
Right, absolutely.
Right? This can ruin anyone's yontif.
Absolutely.
Right? Actually, the Gemara will actually discuss about this, because during the muskar, I think he was not permitted to his wife. When he was muchlat, he was permitted to his wife. So there are different things that can be changed as well.
So yontif for sure, right?
For yontif for sure you didn't. Okay, for yontif for sure you didn't.
You weren't separated?
No, for yontif for sure you didn't declare it.
On yontif.
You didn't call him. You didn't call him, he didn't come. So I said this becomes complicated because it deals with the laws of tzaras. So the Mishnah says there are two opinions here. Rabbi Meir Omer, roinus in the goyim batchila lahakel, avalo lahachmir. So according to Rabbi Meir, you call the kohen to see in the goyim and Chol Moed, and initially, in other words, even if he doesn't have, we have this one version that's word betchila, in parentheses, you see it?
Mine says batchila.
Batchila, which means initially, before there was any question whatsoever. So lahakel, if the kohen comes and sees that he's tahar, says he's tahar.
Or he's not sure. No, lahakel doesn't that mean gives him the benefit of the doubt? He's not sure.
Correct, but in other words, but when he comes to see it, he has to make a declaration. Doesn't mean he just simply looks at it and winks at it.
Yeah, I know.
It means he sees it, And if he sees that it has Simone Tahara, he says it's Tahar. Avalola Hachmir. But if he sees Simone, it has a Simonim of Tumah, he keeps quiet. Okay, because according to Rabbi Meir, it looks like the option is that the option is to the Kohen whether he has the right to say it or not. As long as he didn't open his mouth, the guy is still tahar. Now, by the way, if you think this sounds very far-fetched, the other example that comes up with Soras, and this everybody agrees upon, is Soras Habayit. When there's this leprosy on the house, what does the Torah say to do before you call the Kohen?
Take everything out of the house
before you call the Kohen.
Right.
So you see, as long as the Kohen didn't come,
no, for sure, didn't declare it. Never mind.
As long as the Kohen didn't come and declare it, then everything's fine.
Sure.
And on the other hand, if you had the misfortune the Kohen came when the furniture was in the house, everything's in the house is tummy. It's got to be burnt and destroyed. So you see there's something special about how the Kohen makes his declaration. Which, by the way, is why Chazal say this is not about contagion, this is not about medical issues, it's really about spiritual kinds of punishments. Because you see, it doesn't follow the natural laws. Because if it were natural, if there was contagious, and the Kohen came along and says the house is tamei, right? So the furniture you took out 5 minutes before should also be destroyed. Whatever germs are there are going to be in the furniture. But they didn't understand germs, but they didn't realize this. They didn't recognize or treat this as a medical kind of thing.
Forgive me, I'm still not clear about Rabbi. Again, is he saying that in a case of doubt, is that what he's saying, that they should get the benefit of the
no. If the Kohen comes and sees it,
sees something,
sees what is he's being asked to paskin on the Tzoras.
Right.
If it's tahar, says you're tahar.
If he sees it's clearly tahar, he should say it's tahar.
If he sees it's tamei,
well, he thinks it's tamei, let's say, that's his opinion.
His opinion is what sets it.
I know, so I'm saying, so we're saying he should declare it or shouldn't declare it?
So according to Rabbi, no, we can't, not on Chalamoid.
I got you. So even if he sees, there's no doubt in his mind that this is,
keeps his mouth
he just
shut.
shouldn't say anything.
Right?
I got you.
So like to say, Cohen, is it good news or bad news? I don't want to tell you. I can't.
No comment.
No comment. I don't know how well he enjoy Yontif, but.
Rabbi, why not just say don't comment on Talmud?
So the Chachamim say that opinion. So Chachamim say you're right.
Why does he want him to come and?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because life is a roll of the dice.
People are nasty.
You're relieved.
If you hear it's good news, you'll be relieved. Your yontif will be great. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, okay.
On the other hand, right? If he says I can't tell you, you know what it's really going to say.
You might be sweating.
You might be sweating very badly. But obviously it looks like Rabbi Meir gives a lot of leeway to the Kohen, what the Kohen can actually can say or not. Okay?
Well, in a way, he's not, because he's telling the Kohen. According to him, he's saying to the Kohen, listen.
No, he says normally the Kohen sees something, he has to declare it.
So,
see, the case, for example, the case in the house. The Kohen was not called.
Right.
So the Kohen is not there. He can't declare the house to be Tomei.
Right. He's not there.
First, Pinos Abayis. Then you're going to call the Kohen.
I remember.
But if the Kohen comes to see something, it's a chiddush to say he sees it's Tomei and doesn't declare it to be Tomei.
Right.
So I'll tell you tomorrow. Can you imagine that? Doctor says, I have the results of your test. And they know they do this all the time. I have the results of your test. Come into the office tomorrow. Right?
Right.
Right. And how do you feel?
Suspense.
With suspense. You know what you feel? You feel when you get the call from the office and they say, we have the results, the doctor wants to see you. You don't feel good. Okay, now, the doctor may just tell you something, you want to adjust your medication. Or we want to change your medication. But you're expecting the worst. So that's how you would feel it. But Rabbi Meir says, nonetheless, the trade-off, in case the good news is good, that it's tahar, is good. And as long as the Kohen doesn't say anything, you're okay. It's a clean bill of spiritual health. Lo lahakav lo lahachmir. What do we have here?
No.
Chachamim. We have a Mishnah, still in the Mishnah. We didn't get to the Gemara. Gemara's of Yossi. 2 lines up. The Gemara's of Yossi, but the Mishnah has a Chachamim. Chachamim omrim lo lahakav lo lahachmir. You don't show any in the goyim to the Kohen on Chalamoid, because if the Kohen is going to have to see it and declare it to be tahar, so if he sees Simone Tuma, he will also have to declare it to be Tameh. Because according to the Chachamim, the Kohen has no option once he sees it to say it. So as long as he doesn't see it, you're okay. And until he gets there, everything's fine. if the Kohen is in town, out of town, whether he gets there 5 minutes or 5 hours, until the Kohen comes, he is tahar. But the moment the Kohen sees it, according to the Chachamim, which by the way makes a whole lot of sense, he has an obligation according to the Torah to say it, and this is not just logic, but the Rabbi, the Chachamim, or we'll see in the Gemara's Rabbi Yossi, learns them from the pasuk because it says lataro or latamo.
Right.
So lataro or latamo, he says whatever he says, he's either going to be with lataro or latamo.
Better not call him.
So therefore, not just better not call him, don't call him.
Don't
okay?
call him.
Risky business.
It's not risky business.
Don't call him.
In other words,
Wait till after
there's a difference between the variety of opinion. The difference of opinion is how much the Kohen really has leeway. Can the Kohen really keep his mouth quiet or not? Okay?
And what we're concerned about here is Simchas.
V'samachta v'chagecha. V'samachta v'chagecha.
Exactly.
Right. So
This could put a damper on your
that's right. That's
on
correct.
the whole family, not
Correct.
just on this guy.
Right. And being a Metzora was, if it's not cured, you're out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Your wife is inviting people for sukkahs. No, come on, you can't even think.
Now your wife actually goes with you when you become a.
No, but she invited people for sukkahs, all kinds of.
But they're not coming. The people.
No, that's it. Don't. That's why he said,
Right.
don't start up. Leave it
So it's actually a fascinating halacha that if a man is a Metzora, his wife goes with him.
Hey, better.
It sounds for us in a modern kind of world
Yeah.
that makes no sense. But on the other hand, that's how the Torah viewed it.
Why should he?
I don't think so. I
The
think
other way
just.
around doesn't work. If the wife is Mitzvah,
That's a good question. I don't know.
the guy may have half a dozen wives. Or four.
True.
I don't know.
But really,
Do we
why the wife has to
do we
go?
find? I don't know if you ever find a woman in Torah.
Never talked about it.
Who?
Miriam.
Miriam.
Oh, long term.
Miriam was an exception.
Like we have the Abba Mitzorayim in the Haftorah.
Right, yeah.
Right. Or the Mitzorah that they talk about sending outside the camp. I guess it could be just as well. Yeah, I suppose so.
Theory, it certainly
Theory.
should be.
I guess any of the illustrated pictures ever saw only had men.
But you wonder why the wife has to go. Did they give a logic for that? I mean, it's...
So I think the Gemara has it. Okay.
Who's going to look after this guy? You think they have?
Who's going to look after the little kids? Let's say they got little
You
kids.
think they have Filipinos back then?
I assume they had something set up in the old Matsura camp. Time.
Okay. All right. So actually, the question would be, what would be a better Simchas Yontif, with his wife, without his wife, or with not knowing, with knowing? Tanya. Okay. So this actually sounds complicated, but this is actually very straightforward. Either you show it to him, and he says, yes, you're tar, and I can't say anything, or you don't show him at all, and you don't take a chance. You don't allow him, because once he sees, he says, you're tar or tameh. Tanya. Okay, so now the Gemara starts like this. We have a brisa. The brisa gets a little more complicated. Rabbi Meir, Omer, here brings Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Meir, and this is the same Rabbi Meir in our Mishnah. Roinus and the Goyim lahakel avalo lahachmir. So this is the brisa is quoting exactly what our Mishnah says. The first opinion of Rabbi Meir is the same thing. Rabbi Yossi Omer, lo lahakel v'lo lahachmir. Shematon niskak lahakel, niskak lo af lahachmir. Okay, so that's simply a rephrasing of our Mishnah, a restatement of our Mishnah, except instead of being Rabbi Meir Chachamim, it's Rabbi Meir Rabbi Yossi.
What's Nizkat?
He nitzarech. He will be zakuk. He will be required. Okay. He will know that if you tell him he's got to, if he will be required to be lahakel, he'll be required to be machmer as well. Now, what do you mean required? So either you say you're being machmer not by saying anything, but really what it's saying is you have to say it.
Right.
If you got to say this, you got to say that.
It's incumbent on him really to say it.
It's incumbent on the Kohen to say what he sees. Okay. Now, obviously, the Kohanim must have gone to some kind of schooling.
I would hope so.
Some kind of training.
Are you kidding? Of course.
Right. So they
Nida and all other kinds of things. That have huge training. Like colors and this and that.
Correct, but this is something unique to the Kohanim. Right?
Yeah, in those days, it was probably only the Kohanim back then.
The Kohanim, who paskin halacha? Probably the Kohanim. Kohanim and the Vim, probably. Yeah. Okay. So Amar Rebbe, Nirin diver Rabbi Meir b'muskar, v'diver Rabbi Yossi b'muchlat. Okay. So Rebbe comes along and says, maybe each of them seems logical in one case. Now, the muskar is the guy who is he's locked up. The first seven, we don't know what he is. So according to Rabbi Meir, it's better he should come to see what there is, because he can be freed.
Right.
So no, it's not simply that you don't know the status. So that's that we don't. If the guy doesn't come, we don't lose, but actually you can actually gain.
He's outside the camp now.
Correct. So he's outside the camp, and therefore for a muskar, it makes sense that this could be helpful to him. What about the guy comes along and says that you looks like Mitzorah? So some of the Rishonim asked that question. So it's not really a good answer.
He stays where he is.
Well, there are two types of things that can happen. For the muskar, he can actually become tomei at that point,
Right.
or he could be re-back for the second week. Right? And we'll see what we're talking about in the next line, talking about the first muskar. So, and v'div Rabbi Yossi b'muchlat. And Rabbi Yossi, who says we shouldn't have him come, the Kohen shouldn't come at all, makes sense. The guy is a muchlat, he's definitely a mitzorah. Why would that mean he shouldn't come? Why would that be helpful?
Well, maybe the guy went through 7 days, let's say the first 7 days, and now they've gone by.
The seventh day is Moed.
Let's say the 7 days, so you call him back, now he can either be cleared or he has to be, maybe he'll be a completely thing, right? Or was it the end of the second 7 days? When did, I don't know. Maybe at the end of the second 7 days.
Muchlat, what can happen?
A muchlat is the second 7 days? The end of the second 7 days?
So why should Rabbi Yossi say he shouldn't come?
Because if it's called a moed, he either, now that it's the second 7 days, he has no choice, right? Either to declare him clean or not, or make him Metzora, no? At the end of the second days, what choice does a Kohen have?
Muchla is already there.
Well, if he's already there, what's to talk about?
He's already tummy.
No, but if a muchlat is a Metzora, then, and he's been declared a Metzora, then what else is to do? There's nothing left to do. What do you do with a Metzora? There's no more declaration.
He has to stay until it's gone.
Well, I don't know when they check him out again, but
Again, keep checking.
I don't know when.
He's got to get checked before he gets back into the camp.
I know, but I'm saying it's not necessarily 7 days, right? It could be a month, or
It could be
forever.
So, why b'muchlat? Because this is this part about the wife. So because after, here we go, because the muchlat, a mitzorah muchlat is permitted for his wife, but when he becomes tahar, there's a process of time for the week until he becomes tahar that his wife is prohibited to him. So the Gemara is actually going to explain this on the Zayin Amud Bet. So therefore, when the muchlat is declared to be tahar, it's good news and bad news. The good news is he will become tahar. He's not tahar now, he has to go through a process. And until he becomes tahar, which will be after Yantif, he's going to be prohibited to his wife. So this v'samachta b'chagecha is still going to be impacted upon.
If you declare him tahar. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, it is better for the muchlat not to determine this now, because it is true that he will eventually begin the process to go back to Klal Yisrael. He doesn't go back right away. There's a whole process he has to go through with Karbanos and Tahara in 7 days. But for Yantif, there will be a deterioration of Let
his...
him be with his wife at least,
correct.
Or whatever.
So in other words, he will have nothing for the rest of Yantif. So therefore, for Yantif, it's not an improvement for V'samach V'chagecha. So therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, it makes sense for Muchlat.
Right.
Are you stuck with that one Kohen?
You're stuck with the Kohen.
You get a second opinion.
So you're stuck with the Kohen. Whichever Kohen comes, that's it. If he's a legitimate Kohen, he's in. That's it. Kohanim or Kohanim.
Even a halal?
Not a halal, a real Kohen. A Kohen who's a valid Kohen.
I don't think halal is a valid Kohen.
I think a halal